I see all five of us are present. So would you join me? Right? No, oh, no schools. Everybody's gone. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Is there a report of action taken in closed session?
Yes, Madam President, the board met today, June 8th, 2023, and the report goes as follows. Tonight in closed session, the board voted to release a probationary classified employee number 611344. The vote was as follows. Motion by trustee Medina, second by trustee Quinones. Motion passed 4 with 1 absent. That's the end of our report this evening.
Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Oh, yes.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one request to, from consent educational leadership, item K, agreement with Sweetwater Union High School District. I'd like to move that into discussion,
Where would you like to see that?
wherever you want to put it.
It's educational leadership. You wanted to
We can go after D.
after D or before B?
No,
Have
because
any-
the staff has been waiting, so.
Okay, after D. Wait, after D. Okay,
Thank you.
you are welcome. Let me write that down. Now I believe it is our turn to approve the agenda as amended. May I hear a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I'll take that as ready to take the vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Communications to the Board of Trustees with a 5-minute limit per group, educational leadership.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, Executive Board and audience. My name is Lisa Celaya and I represent our District English Learner Advisory Committee. At our last DLAC meeting of the school year in May, Principal Paola Flores shared highlights from Central Elementary. She started out with a quote about teamwork. A team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. Mrs. Flores stated that at Central, they are a team who trust each other. Principal Flores demonstrated Central's demographics and Central's school focus, belonging, equity, and excellence. Principal Flores ended the presentation by introducing her community resource team, and each member shared their roles and services they provide to the students and families. Vice Chair Graciela Nava and DLAC members read and approved the minutes. Director Tom Belawakwa discussed the consolidated application or CONAP. Coordinator Lisa Celaya updated our parents on the ALPAC summative. We're finished. We tested all our students that we tested, and we tested summative ALPAC and the alternate ALPAC. Grades TK through 8th grade. Coordinator Lisa Celaya informed the parents of our new coordinator, Brenda Robles. And since taking this position in 2014, after being a bilingual teacher for 26 years, it has been an honor and a privilege serving our English learners and their families. I encourage our families to continue to have a voice on behalf of their children. And I like to end my last and final report with this quote from Jay in Modern Family. Life is full of change, some big, some small. I learned a long time ago you could fight it or you could try to make the best of it. That's a lot easier if you got people who love you, helping you face whatever life throws at you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We have capital projects?
I'm going to take the other 2.5 minutes from Lisa.
Thank you. I was wondering. Yes, thank you.
So good evening, President Ellsworth, Superintendent Espinosa, trustees, executive team, colleagues, community members, all of our educational partners, and our students who are on summer vacation. Educational leadership would like to update the board on the Extended Learning Opportunities Program, or ELOP, on our summer intersession. So this theme of this year's summer intersession program is Under the Sea, where we have approximately 900 students enrolled who will be receiving a variety of enrichment and academic opportunities facilitated by approximately 100 SBUSD employees and along with 70 community partners and organizations. The program will be held at Central, Pence, Mendoza, and Sunny Slope, where students will have the opportunity to participate in a variety of activities. Some examples include introduction to a variety of musical instruments, 3D design and games, mobile coding, digital arts, enrichment through the arts, robotics, forensics, video and music production, culminating in a public service announcement about caring for our oceans, and field trips to the Wild Animal Park and SeaWorld. And additionally, I would like to highlight the partnership with Sweetwater Union High School District, where we'll be offering a swim program at the Mar Vista High School Aquatic Center. There will be a series of opportunities for our students to include water safety, basic swimming, competitive swimming, intro to water polo. SBUSD will be providing transportation and supervision for all of our students, and the Sweetwater staff will be providing lifeguards and water safety instructors. You'll see the MOU for the partnership in tonight's agenda, which is now going to be item D. I had it in our consent calendar, but I have to change that now. And finally, I would just like to acknowledge the hard work that Christina Alton, our extended learning coordinator, and Zulema Pena, the office assistants, have done in developing this great opportunities for all of our students. Thank you.
Can we sign up? This sounds totally,
Registration closed. No, of course you can.
this sounds really, really wonderful. Thank you. South Bay PTA Council. Incoming president, Susan Connors.
On. Good evening, President Ellsworth, board members, Superintendent Espinosa, admin team, and community members. My name is Susan Connors, and I'm currently serving as the South Bay Council Treasurer. I am also the president-elect for South Bay Council of Parent-Teacher Associations and will assume office July 1st. I'm back. Our PTAs have been very busy the last month or so, trying to wind up the school year and provide some fun activities along the way. I know many of them supported Staff Appreciation Week. We truly appreciate our staff members, as many of them help the PTAs at their sites. Many of our units have also held spring carnivals, science fairs, and supported sixth grade promotions. Now it's time for audits, which are now called financial reviews because that's less scary, and changing things over to reflect the new incoming boards at the schools. Most of our units have a 2-year term limit to allow the other members to step into leadership roles. Speaking of winding up our terms, I have actually Sonia Vargas, our departing president, has gifts for you that are definitely under $50. For those of you who have supported our PTAs this year with your membership. She wanted to thank everyone who joined PTA this year with a little memento based on your level of participation. Thank you for your time and support, and I look forward to reporting on the activities of our units in the coming year.
Thank you, and welcome back. South Bay Union School District Education Foundation.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Directors, Superintendent Espinosa, Executive Committee, and audience members. I'm Karen Tomlinson. This is Tracy Wolf, and we are here to officially announce that the South Bay Education Foundation is filing for dissolution of our 5013C. We just would like to thank everybody who over the past 20 years has dedicated their time, their talent, monetarily donated to us. And in keeping with the federal rules of dissolution, we need to transfer any monies that we have remaining to another 501c3. And so we as a board have chosen to give that to the South Bay School District PTA Council. So I don't know if you were aware of that. So we look forward to seeing some great things from you on behalf of our community. And so thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. California School Employees Association, Chapter 59, CSCA. Seeing none. Southwest Teachers Association, SWATA. Seeing no one. District Superintendent.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. I just want to take a really quick minute. Number one, to thank, and I know Tom Bevilacqua talked a little bit about our agreement with Sweetwater. And I just want to thank their school district, their superintendent, as well as the rest of their staff, for working with our staff to really come up with an agreement to ensure that our students are going to have access to the pool, and they're going to have access to water safety training. I think that's as we all know, that's such an important item for students who are here right next to the beach, even though they can't get into the beach right now. That's a different topic. But I'm really excited that our intercession students will be working on, their theme is Under the Sea. And so we're going to be learning about, some of the pollution that has been plaguing our community for a long time. So I am really excited about that. And I'm also really excited about the students that we've had, that wrote letters this year, and that we are mailing to President Biden to ask for some action on our polluted beaches and our polluted ocean. So those are a couple of very exciting things. And then last but not least, today I attended the Sunny Slope promotion for class of, and I hope I did the math right, they are class of 2029. So our sixth graders will graduate. They will be graduates in the official class of 2029, and they're coming right at Sweetwater pretty soon here, in a month or so. But I was really happy to see all the happy faces of the parents and the students, and also Principal Corrales, who did a great job, and her staff in organizing a really nice event for a culminating of the elementary experience for our students. So really happy to see that, and just wanted to congratulate all our students who are promoting from sixth grade, and our classes that are promoting from eighth grade, and wish our staff a great break. Hope that they're doing something exciting so that they can recharge and ready for the start of the new school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public comments on non-agenda items.
There are no comments.
Thank you. Now we're on to discussion action items. A year in review is up first. I'd like to recognize Superintendent Jose Espinosa.
Thank you. That went a lot faster than I thought. All right, so today our team would like to present somewhat of a year in review. I've been talking or discussing with the board and staff and the different community members all the different work that we have going on. And for a big part of that work, our staff has been presenting at every board meeting. I know Assistant Superintendent Reichert Montiel has kept us updated every month with an update on our LCAP. Assistant Superintendent Lara has also kept us updated on the different projects that are going on within his department. I know Executive Director Melissa Griffith has also kept us updated on everything going on in HR. But today we really wanted an opportunity to put it all together. So to just kind of present to the board how all these items fit together. And so I will start with the start of the 2022-2023 school year, and all the hopes, the fears, and the unknowns that we started the year with. The hopes, of course, are, we had a really great team that we were able to put together. And so there were a lot of hopes behind what we could accomplish in this school year. Of course, some of the fears are, fears of we weren't sure what was going to happen with the pandemic, whether, it was going to continue, it wasn't going to continue. We had to still, keep track of everything that was happening. And one of the unknowns was we weren't sure how we were going to come out of that pandemic mindset. So a lot of different feelings, definitely starting off the school year. But I want to say that, I think one of the highlights of this at the beginning of the school year was the feeling of Team South Bay Union School District. And that is plain and simple, just the idea that as a school district, we're all working together as a team, and that we are looking at our system and asking the question, right? How are we doing what we do? And then, trying to figure out, is that the best way of doing it? Which brings us to our framework of reflect, redefine, and rebuild, or the R3 framework, as we have called it. And really what that is, we wanted to make sure that every department, every school, every classroom was really reflecting on how we're meeting the needs of our students. So at the classroom level, right? How are we ensuring that our students are reading at grade level by the end of the year? So just asking that simple question and just really thinking about the things that we have in place to ensure that that's happening. At a department level, let's say, for example, food services. Food services really had to ask that question of how are we ensuring that, our lunches, our breakfasts, that they are the most nutritious, that they are, and we know this is important to our students, not only that they're nutritious, but that they look good and they taste good, right? That's a big part of what students like about lunches. And so just really asking that question. That question really just permeated throughout our system, from our business office to our special education office, to our HR office. Every single part of the system was really thinking about, how are we doing the job that we do? How are we serving the community that we serve? Now, I will admit that the initial thinking around this framework was that we could do this in about a year. We thought, okay, we're going to do some of that reflection piece, right up to about winter break. Then we're going to come back from winter break and we're going to start to redefine. And what we want to do with redefinition is we want to redefine what success looks like in South Bay. We want to redefine what success is in our classrooms, what success is for our in our cafeterias, what success is for maintenance, what success is just throughout our district. And then finally, once we redefine what success is, then we were going to rebuild. So our initial thinking was that we could do that in about a year. The reality is that this framework is really, that work is going to be a multi-year plan. That is going to be a multi-year work that we're going to have to take on. And what changed? Well, the reason it changed is because when we started to get into the reflection piece, we started to notice that we really had to be, really thoughtful about everything that we were doing. And one of the important parts about that is that, when we're being really thoughtful, we really had the idea that we don't want to just we don't want to just rebuild what we had, because what we had wasn't necessarily working for our students. We want to build back better. And so we are going to be very thoughtful about when we reflect and when we redefine, we're going to be very thoughtful about that. So that's really what changed. Now the thinking is this year, we're pretty much ending our reflection phase, and we're going to start to go into our redefine what success means at the different levels of our district. And today, our team will highlight some of the big projects that have been going on. And again, think about this in the reflection phase, because we're talking about projects that we started this year that may go on for a couple of years. And one of the points that I wanna make is that any one of these projects could take us multiple years and a lot of staff focus. I was really worried at the beginning. I was really worried about taking on so much of these projects, so much work, because it's a lot. It is a lot of work. And you will hear right now when I start to call different team members up, you will hear all the work that we're doing. And the reason that we're taking on this much work is because I have full confidence in the team that we have built. We have a great team who is dedicated, who is working absolutely, very hard to ensure that we're going to build our system back better. So just wanted to kind of make that point. And without any more from me, I'd like to call Assistant Superintendent Pamela Reichert Montiel.
Good evening. So what I have for you are some of the highlights for educational leadership. And I think we will all say this is not an exhaustive list. We really had to focus in on things that we wanted to highlight because there is so much work that we have done. So some of the highlights include the 2 department studies, special education and technology. These studies have both short-term and long-term recommendations. And I know that we had the board presentation already on the 1 study. Reflection on core adoptions and really the supplemental resources that we're using to meet the needs of our students in the case that the core adoptions are not, and assessments. We focused a lot on assessments this year, particularly with our consultation committee in identifying what are those common assessments and benchmarks that we want to ensure that all students are meeting, as well as reflection on our technology platforms. There is the division reorganization, as you're aware also, that is a highlight for us as we move forward. We've also focused on multi-tiered systems of support for academics, social emotional learning, and attendance, along with our behavior matrix and our discipline handbook. As you have heard in many of our updates, we have the expansion of our Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, which is our ELOP. And you heard from Director Bevilacqua about our summer intercession. But just want to share with you because I don't know that we could give enough kudos to that very small team that is working so diligently to bring these intercessions to our students, after school clubs, and the after school program. So we are serving approximately 1,300 students in our programs, including our clubs. And as you already heard, we have 900 students enrolled for summer intercession. I think last year, this time summer, we might have had about 350. So this is an offering that's going out to all students. We also included it in our registration, online registration process, that parents can indicate their interest in expanded learning when they register. So that already triggers them getting the information. We also have our partnership with our League of Innovative Schools, where we're really challenged to continuously define innovation. What does innovation mean for us as a district and as we look at districts around the country? We have our monthly district leadership team and instructional leadership team meetings where we provide professional development and direction to all of our management team. And then our instructional leadership team includes those that touch instruction, which are our principals, our coordinators, and our directors. And those are monthly meetings with the two different teams. We also have supported new principals through their professional learning networks. Our principals are partnered up or within little triads or 4 schools together. And we went through instructional rounds with our new principals and provided them with professional development. We also expanded the dual language immersion program here in the district by adding Nikoloff. We also expanded our universal transitional kindergarten. We added this year 3 new TK classrooms. So we had 8 and we added 3 additional classrooms. You heard a presentation on the Prop 28 arts funding. And so we know that we've got some work to do, but have already begun that work. And then, of course, with the addition of many other staff members, but particularly the counselors, social workers, and our new parent engagement specialist who is began on June 1st. So as Superintendent Espinosa mentioned, that we have gone through a lot of reflection on our practices, what's working, what's not working, and where do we head. And so now we feel as we move forward, we've set some goals, and again, not an exclusive list, but we do want to complete and fully implement the MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support for all of the areas that I mentioned, the academic, social, emotional, and attendance. We want to ensure that students are receiving a 100% standards aligned instruction. And that's regardless of the resource, whether it's the core resource or a supplemental resource. We need to make sure that our students are receiving standards aligned instruction to their grade level. We would like to see a successful transition of the reorganization plan. So we know that's going to entail movement, reassignment of some responsibilities, people being supervised by different people. So there's a lot of work in that, but we are confident that we will have a successful transition. We'd like to see improved attendance and student family engagement, and we have those goals and positions lined up to make sure that happens. And I know that we shared as far as our ICANN, we had several schools participate with the county for ICANN, which is the network for improving attendance. And we will have all of the other schools that did not participate this year. It was a 2-year program. They are now opening it up to our other schools. So all of our other schools will participate in ICANN. We will continue with our planning for community schools since we did receive the planning grant. Launchpad is a partnership that we are going to be exploring with the County Office of Ed, and that is for their innovation school that they've taken over and are creating with South Bay in mind, really wanting to partner with us. And then, of course, implementation of the study recommendations, which have a lot to do with policies, procedures, and communication. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Lara.
Thank you.
Good evening.
And good evening.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Before I discuss a little bit more about our highlights, I do want to share that I feel the need sometimes when it comes to business services, we do have although maybe not direct impact, there is an impact on learning for kids. Ultimately, what we do impacts kids in the classroom. We know that they can't learn at a high level if they're hungry. So our child nutrition services department, they provide up to 2 meals a day for them. Fiscal department, we don't have staff who doesn't get paid. They won't be here teaching our kids. They pay the bills. They ensure that funding is aligned to our LCAP goals and actions. Transportation gets our kids to school so that they can learn. So just wanted to keep that in mind that as I'm discussing these highlights, they ultimately lead to positive outcomes for both kids and staff members. So starting with the annual budget cycle, it's not necessarily a project that will ever end. The annual budget cycle is, as it says, a yearly goal. And ultimately that's fiscal solvency, not only in the current year, but in future years. So we must make sure that as we make decisions, that we always look at what those impacts are financially, not only current, but also in the future, the next couple of years. This year, we had positive certification, both first and second interim reports. Again, a positive certification is that we are able to pay our bills in the current year, and we're fiscally solvent in the following years. We had a successful audit for the fiscal year of 21 and 22. We established a OPIB trust, which does several things. It increases the district credit rating. Increases, right? A higher credit rating decreases our liabilities, but also the investment brings more money than just having it with interest. So we are the investments projected to make about $500,000 to $700,000 more dollars, as opposed to about the $100,000 a year that we were making on interest. We issued Measure X last fall. And as you know, Measure X will allow us to save general fund dollars on capital projects. We issued it this year. We haven't spent the dollars yet, but as I discuss future goals, that will be something I mention more with. Although challenging at times, we had collaboration negotiations with our labor partners, but we were able to get a 2-year deal with SWATA this past December of 2022. And I know that Melissa will discuss that a little bit further. We also established a supplemental employee retirement plan, and the SERP, an incentive for our employees, a way to reward them for their service here in South Bay. But it's also projected millions of dollars of savings over the next 5 years. So a positive also, not only for our employees, but for district finances as well. Just to continue some of the highlights. We just currently, just before the year ended, we finally made moves around the reorganization of maintenance operations and transportation department. As you know, that the MOT department was one department in the last couple of years, but really for efficiency purposes, in order to have better collaboration within the teams, more efficient teams, we made decisions to reorganize the department. Maintenance operations and facilities is now going to be its one department. I know that job description of the director is before you today. And now, just recently, you approved the position of director of transportation, who will only oversee transportation, not maintenance operation and transportation. So that happened just in the last few weeks. Davey, as you know, again, last week we had the facility needs, was it last week? Yes, maybe last couple of weeks, May 30th. I know the date. We had our facility needs assessment, which is big, large, a lot to do. This first year was just about that year-long study and assessment. Moving forward, we will be looking at ways to have, as Superintendent Espinosa says, what do we want a successful facilities program to look like? We started that discussion on May 30th, and we're taking that now and looking forward to putting things in place. Safety and security, we also had a not necessarily a year-long assessment, but for a good chunk of the year, with many recommendations as well. Safety and security has been a major focus of the board and all of us. And that assessment, again, has recommendations that we will begin to put in place next year. Something that did occur around that assessment, though, is part of that was also the training for staff. And that first part of the training, again, it's one step towards additional types of training, was the armed assailant training for all staff, teachers, classified, and management. So again, one training, we are going to build off that training and provide additional trainings as well. This was our first year of AB 181, the transportation plan. It was developed this year, and really it's a living document that we will be revisiting each and every year. The plan that we developed this year didn't really change anything regarding the transportation department yet. But as we reflect on how it's going and what our future needs are, then we will begin to return to the plan and revise it. Child nutrition. As you know, we provide up to 2 meals a day for our kids, and it's their job to provide those meals. It was mentioned that what those meals, how they look, the presentation of those meals does matter. And we are increasing the number of kids that we're serving. So February of last 21-22, it was about in the 60% range of the number of meals that were of students that were receiving meals. As of April, we're in the 74%. So that data is saying that more kids, the food is more appealing. Of course, we stick to the nutritional standards and ensure that they're healthy meals for our kids. So kudos to our department for increasing those meals. So goals are when I started talking about some next steps, but our goals for 23-24 are just building on what we did this year. Again, fiscal solvency, it's every time we receive new information, we're adjusting. We're making changes as we receive that information to ensure that we are financially responsible and fiscally solvent in order to provide all the services that we provide for our kids and our staff. The safety and security recommendations, we have committed funds, as you'll see when we discuss the budget, to make improvements in the alarm systems, cameras, and communication system. That's kind of a beginning phase. There will be additional phases to continue to make those security improvements district-wide. Facilities improvements, we have bond dollars to begin that. We have to be very strategic in how we move forward, because as you know, those bond dollars that we currently have can only take us so far, and which is why we are looking at the potential 2024 bond. In August, we will have staff and community surveys go out as far as which way community is leaning towards a possible bond. We discuss possible workforce housing. That would begin with staff interest. So a survey is critical for us to know what that interest is before we move forward. The maintenance and operations study recommendations by Eric Hall and Associates, it discussed the need to move to look at our energy management and preventive maintenance plans. And that's really to reduce costs. There are ways, we do have the solar in place, but there are additional ways, and it includes, it's really developing a long-term plan to reduce energy costs. It can be replacing equipment with more efficient equipment, windows that may need replacing. That plan should include that we replace them with windows that are more energy efficient. I'm just kind of providing a couple of examples, but really that plan is much more in-depth and detailed than the examples I'm giving now. But so that's a goal to begin working on that next year. The preventive maintenance plans is also a cost-saving measure when we can extend the life of our assets, of our equipment, by moving away from a cycle of just reactive maintenance where we're just fixing things and getting a work order to repair. It's needed, of course, when things come up, but really that preventive maintenance is focusing on that and having a long-term plan regarding that will really improve that, so that we're not always just reacting to the work orders, but just scheduling ongoing preventive measures for our equipment. I talked a little bit about the transportation plan and the need to revisit that as we begin to, as we reflect and see how the transportation department is what the needs are moving forward. We've heard that may include EV buses. That's not something you just say, okay, let's do it, but really looks at a deep view, a deep dive into what that can look like in the next few years. And Universal Meals continue to offer great meals to our kids, nutritious meals, so that they are well fed. They look forward to lunch and ready to learn in our classrooms. And now I'd like to ask Executive Director Melissa Griffith to come up.
Thank you, Rigo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. For the Human Resources Department, a lot of the things that I'm going to highlight tonight are recommendations that were made from our school services report that was conducted back in August of 2020. So we are in the process of implementing the recommendations from the study. As we think about our work this year,
I'm going to respectfully ask you to take the conversation further away from the speaker. Yes. Thank you.
Much of our work this year really was centered around negotiations. And through our collaboration and commitment to our students and staff, we were able to secure negotiated agreements that have an incredible compensation and benefit increases. With that being said, with our new investment in our teams, we know that we are going to continue to strive, which is also putting us in a very competitive place with our neighboring South County districts, which was our priority and our main goal as we think about how we support our students and how we support our staffs. So definitely a lot of work, a lot of collaboration with our union leaders and also our district partners in order for us to make that happen. Assistant Superintendent Rigo Lara mentioned this idea around, you know, the amount of time and work that goes into being able to really achieve what you set out in negotiations. And there's a lot of hours and a lot of time and a lot of commitment, but we were a dedicated team on both sides. We had a very successful negotiation sessions. Even though it took a long time, we were able to get to an end result that was very beneficial for everyone involved. So big appreciation for the work and the collaboration from both sides of the house to make that happen. As we know, the more competitive we are, the more people we can recruit for our district and ultimately be able to provide the best education possible for our students. So that was a lot of work this year. In addition to that piece around negotiations, we were able to offer the CERT, which a lot of our dedicated employees that have been in our district for a long period of time, we were able to honor their work and recognize that and be able to, you know, really provide them an exit that was joyful and that was connected to negotiations as well as being able to retire with 75% of the highest annual salary. We had 61 employees that participated in that. And we know that they were very thankful and, you know, definitely very beneficial on both sides for us to be able to do that. As we think about recruitment, selection, and staffing, we partnered with the San Diego County Office of Education approximately 2 years ago. It's kind of hard to believe that it was 2 years ago and we still aren't live yet, but there's a lot of work that goes into a project like this. Ultimately, when we think about once we are live, the point of the recruitment project with the County Office of Education really is to allow us to doing.
Excuse me, we are finding the conversation in the back of the room a little distracting. Superintendent. Superintendent. Amy's going. They should. Superintendent. I'm sorry. Okay, I think I need to gavel some people. Excuse me. The conversation in the back of the room is distracting from the report. Outside would be okay too?
My apologies, President Ellsworth.
With the recruitment project that we partnered with the San Diego County Office of Education, once we are able to go live, we've been spending the last 2 years building the system that will work for us. It will allow us to have one platform for our onboarding, offboarding, and recruitment for all of the different types of positions. Right now, with the system that we have in place, it's somewhat antiquated as we do a lot of paper and pencil and manual labor. A lot of that is not automatic, and this new project will allow us to be able to do that. So that will be very beneficial in terms of efficiency for the system and also in terms of the manpower that goes into onboarding, offboarding, and recruiting for our staffing needs. In addition, one of the recommendations from the department study was around allowing more involvement through the hiring process with our hiring managers. So our hiring manager could be anyone from a department leader, a director, an assistant principal or principal, whomever might be hiring for different types of positions. Because what we know is if the hiring manager is really involved in the process, they know exactly what the needs are of their departments and they know exactly what the needs are of their schools. So allowing them the ability to really become more involved in the hiring process was a new piece for us that was added this year. We've also hosted multiple SBUSD job fairs and attended various job fairs across the county. The internal job fairs, that's a newer practice in South Bay, where we're hosting those for our community members and trying to recruit people within the community. We have lots of people that are at our school sites daily volunteering. We have lots of families that want to be connected to our school district in a variety of ways. So we have been able to be successful with hosting those job fairs in the community. And we will continue to do that. We'll actually have another one that's going to be coming up soon in June as we start preparing for the last round of positions that we need to hire for the new school year. Attending various job fairs across the county, that's something we've always done. We will continue to do that. We've attended a few in North County. We've attended a few in South County. And then, of course, the major ones that San Diego County Office of Ed offer throughout the year. This year alone, we've onboarded approximately 120 positions across all of our different classifications and approximately 140 substitute employees. That brings our grand total of substitute employees to 420 active subs. This is the largest number we've ever had in South Bay. So I definitely want to, bring a highlight to that in my team. They've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort in making sure that that actually happens. In addition to this idea around the SERP, we have people that are exiting and we have people that are coming in. So they've been moving really, really fast. And there's a lot of work put into that, especially when you think about a system that's not automated. So once we get to an automated system, I know we're going to continue to soar in those areas. Position control management also is an area that we've been working on based on one of the recommendations in our study. We know that successful position control management is a shared practice between the Human Resources Department and the Fiscal Services Department. We meet all the time, informally and formally. We have a formal standing meeting that we meet every 2 weeks. We're talking about different types of positions. We have lots of shared documents that we use back and forth. We know that having this true shared approach allows us to know exactly how many positions we have in the district, how many positions have been approved, and how many positions we actually need. It prevents us from overstaffing. It also prevents us from understaffing. So our numbers are getting stronger and we're able to have a stronger control because, again, this was another system that was paper and we have moved that to an electronic processing. So it allows us to be able to ensure that we are all really on the same page, and it allows us to be able to budget for that accordingly. The next item listed are department policies and procedures. We spent a lot of time thinking about professional learning opportunities over the last couple of years and providing new and more opportunities for our supervisors, managers, and department leaders. A lot of that was around contracts, making sure that our leaders understand both our CSEA and our SWATA contract. It's really important that we're all operating in the same way and that our understanding is consistent. So we spent some time doing that with our leaders. We've also spent some time around FRISC, which is an opportunity for our leaders to understand how to document if and when folks aren't meeting expectations. That's an area that we've needed to continue to grow in, and how to professionally support those employees to ensure they're able to meet those expectations. In addition to that, we've spent time around the ePARS system, which is our electronic routing system of positions, to ensure that everyone at the site level understands exactly how to submit those electronically, because it's very different than going through a PCR form that you're writing on and passing it around to multiple people. So a little bit different in that regard. So making sure that everybody understands that. We are in the process right now of developing a procedures manual. We have a lot of information and a lot of practices and processes, but we really need to spend time putting all those in one place. So we're working on developing that as we speak. It is a long work in progress because as you know, HR is the pulse of the district and there are a lot of processes that come out of HR. We've also spent time around evaluation and supervision, professional learning opportunities for our evaluators that are evaluating different staff at their school sites and or their departments. We spent time collaborating with our union partners and providing professional learning together about what that timeline for evaluations actually looks like to assure, again, that we're all speaking the same language and that we all are very consistent in our process. District volunteers, this was a new one for us this year. We launched this process as a uniform process that's operated out of the HR department. And with our team and all of the work and dedication that they've put into this process of making sure that we are communicating and working directly with our families and also our site leaders. We have approximately 450 volunteers that are active that have been approved this year. We have about 65 that are in the queue that we are getting, through the onboarding process. So think of onboarding a volunteer just like you would an employee. There's fingerprinting, there's applications, there's things that go along with that to ensure that we are all moving in the right direction as we go out to school sites and support our staff and our students. We are in the process also of allowing us to be the actual custodial keepers of a fingerprinting machine. So we're hopeful to have that up and going by July. It is a pretty lengthy process to be able to do that internally. As we speak today, we typically send our folks out, whether they're employees or volunteers. We have them go out and partner with someone else in order for them to be able to do their fingerprints. This will allow us to be able to house that here at the district. So again, a very lengthy process. We started this back at the beginning of the year, and we're hopeful to be cleared by the time we start the new school year. A lot of information, a lot of work, and a lot of more work to still do. As we think about our goals for 23-24, we're really spending a lot of time about communication and culture. We know that that is important, and we know that if we're all able to work collaboratively and we're all consistent with our communication, that we all can achieve great things. So we will continue working in that area, continuing to strengthen all of our professional relationships, developing those desk manuals for HR positions, a lot of cross-training opportunities that we still need to tackle this year. And at some point, we're going to get to updating all of our job descriptions. A lot of them have been around for a very long time, and we need to do some work in that area. We're hopeful to be able to launch the recruitment process to automate our selection and staffing component, which will definitely allow our department to move in a more efficient way when we are onboarding and offboarding different employees. We will continue to reevaluate and refine all of our processes and procedures. And then in addition, we're hopeful that in this new recruitment phase, we'll be able to have our new hires submit paperwork electronically. Versus scanning documents and sending them back and forth to each other. So that will be a great celebration. We also have negotiations coming up. We will be sunshining a little bit later tonight, and that will be for CSCA for 23-24. And then we have SWATA negotiations coming up again in 24-25, since we were able to secure the 2-year deal.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffith. And before we open it up for questions, I'd like to invite the board to notice the multiple studies that were done by, by outside experts. One of the reasons for this is because whenever you are looking at a system and you're trying to figure out what's the best way to meet the needs of your students in your community, there's always a lot of different opinions about that. And so we wanted to make sure that we had somebody from the outside that were experts in the field. I believe somebody mentioned School Services of California. They're recognized experts in the field. We wanted to make sure that we had their eyes on our system, and then they recommended, here are some changes that should be made, or here are some improvements that you can be made, or here are some things to think about. So I'd invite the board just to notice the several different studies that we're working on as we start to redefine what success looks like in our district. Thank you very much. And then questions.
Well, first of all, thank you very much to the executive team for all their work and all the people who were helping you inside, outside the district. This is a very nice report. Thank you, I feel. Questions? Oh,
Magic. Thank you, Madam President. Let me pull my chair up because I can't see my superintendent. Thank you, Superintendent, for bringing this forward a year in review. I think this is the first one we've had ever. So I appreciate that, work around that, bringing us full-faced in June, and the work that you and your team have provided and the information to the board with this team since 2022, right? So you've only been here a year and a half, and the work of yourself and your team has been tremendous. And I, for one, feel like it's a lot of weight to carry around, but the actions, just this little report here. There's so much hope here, and the departments sharing with us again, because they do it every month, sharing with us again and how modernization and technology are allowing the conversation to take place without having to walk across the street. Okay, it's important for the pulse of the district, which is our HR. Perfect point, pulse. Because without that work, our system, well, you know what our system. So I'm just really happy that we're moving forward in position control, and that assign and funding sources are aligned. So business services is talking with HR and school sites, and so they're properly funded through the correct source. So that's something that we've studied a couple of months ago. So thank you for that work. And looking at our maintenance and facilities department, that work around identifying key leadership roles was really important, because that work had suffered. And without good leadership, the team is wanky and wonky. So I look forward to that work in our coming year. And our schools are beautiful. I mean, there's maintenance to be done, but someone looking out, looking in, our schools look very nice, Superintendent. So thank you for your leadership there and everyone that's associated with the facilities plan. I'm really looking forward to next year. I'm just for community, staff, and children. This is the first time that our children have been in a intercession program for at least 25 years. At minimum. And that was $1 million program. So with the extra funds that we're getting, can you imagine what we're going to do and how we're going to service our community and children and the outcomes? Back then in the 90s, we were distinguished schools. We had academic achievement off the charts because we had an intercession program that was constant. And so, and I can see that from last year's work going into this. Look how many signed up already. Okay. Look how many signed up compared to last year when it was just new. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to that excitement in the community, all 3 zip codes, because without that funding for transportation, we really couldn't realize that. But I'm so thankful that that is part of the ELAP grant. I appreciate the professional development aspect of it. I think that we just went through a professional development ourselves as a board, and that's a key part in knowing your position. And I'm sorry I'm long-winded here, but I'm a long state employee / board member. Okay, so I've seen a lot of growth with you, Superintendent. It's hard work, and I just want to really emphasize the work. We're not done, and you're right. It's like, whoops, okay, oh no, okay. And it's going to take time, but I'm sure we're gonna get there and I'm sure it's gonna look beautiful. It's already is, with your management team, everything's falling in place. So, I have more to say, but I'll hold, but thank you to all of you. All of you. Staff, teachers, classified, management. Without you, it's not possible. Thank you for coming to work every day. Thank you for your dedication and your years of experience, even though some are retiring. Their work is still in my heart and I will still keep saying your name. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. On to some more business, the Local Control Accountability Plan. I'd like to recognize Assistant Superintendent Pamela Reichert Montiel.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Superintendent Espinosa, members of the board, and all educational partners. This evening, I bring you the LCAP for first read and public hearing. Our goals this year were to increase educational partner input into the process, also to identify what was working and what had been challenging about the 2022-23 school year, to gather suggestions for possible actions moving forward. And that's particularly around as we begin to draft the new 3-year LCAP for the 24-25 school year. So just remembering that we will have a new template. Hopefully it will be released in September. And so we're really going to be writing pretty much the whole year for the new LCAP. Our team continues to be committed to ensuring that this process is transparent and that we prioritize student needs. And part of that transparency is coming up here every month and sharing with you updates on the LCAP. Just a reminder that the LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, and services, as well as the expenditures that support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. So this is our opportunity for us to share our stories of how, what, and why programs and services are selected to meet our local needs. So that's the definition from the California Department of Education. All school districts are required to produce an LCAP, and that is so that we can demonstrate how we are using our LCFF funds. We must address the 8 state priorities and incorporate specific matrix. We have to work with our educational partners and make sure that we work with them to lead us down that path of attaining the district goals and those 8 priorities, as well as review our stakeholder input or our educational partner input. Our educational partners have multiple opportunities, as do outside partners such as the County Office of Ed that looks to make sure that we are meeting all of these expectations. The LCAP is separated a little bit into kind of 2 areas where we do an annual update as well as address year 3. So when you look at the LCAP, you'll see the annual update where we talk about what expenditures there were and whether or not they met our goals. Then we also have the plan described, or the 3-year, year 3 identified as what we are doing for the year moving forward. So we look at what we've done, we've looked at what's worked, and then we identify any changes moving forward into that year 3. We also have to address the needs of not only all students, but specific student groups, such as English learners, foster youth, and what we are named as low-income students or socioeconomically disadvantaged. We also have the parent-friendly budget overview, and so this has to be in language that is understandable and accessible to parents and displays information using visuals and graphics. For this school year, we did use an input protocol. along with the reflection tool to identify the successes, challenges, and suggestions moving forward. And I know that is data that I brought forward to you earlier at an earlier meeting. We also had the California Healthy Kids Survey. We do use the district-wide protocols, and they were shared, as I mentioned at the board meeting. They kind of happened during the months of March and April. And then we brought you those results at the May 4th meeting. We also did the California Healthy Kids Survey, as I mentioned, and there's a student survey, there's a parent survey, and a staff survey. And then most recently, we actually invited all staff to complete a survey addressing equity and inclusive practices, because we wanted to add to our some metrics to goal 2. It does also include the CAS data. Again, it is the 21-22 data, so it is always interesting to be writing a plan based on old data. The data is the metrics that is in the LCAP, but we will be looking at our 22-23 data once it is received in the fall. As you know, it's always a little bit behind. Our goal 1 did not change. So none of our goals changed, but when you think of the action steps, all of our action steps are the same in goal 1. It is goal 2 where we added an additional action step, which was to conduct equity walks, student empathy interviews, and student fish bowls. We added this along with metrics for activity 2.7. So this will actually be goal 2, activity 7. And we also are using the survey results to create the matrix or enhance the matrix within goal 2. The reason we did this is something that we are doing. It was a focus after we went through our work with the Center for Educational Leadership. And we really wanted to make sure that our plan reflects the work that we are doing and set the expectation that this happens. So the additions to goal 2 include the following. We added metrics around the staff surveys as well as around the equity walks. So you can see the survey was administered to staff on May 17th. The data is serving as a baseline. And we actually had to seek approval to do this with the County Office of Ed because you don't normally make changes. It is a 3-year plan. But what we wanted to do is really enhance those metrics. We had a goal 2, but there weren't really measurable metrics in there other than the California Healthy Kids Survey. So we sent out the survey. We had 25% of staff completed the survey. And then the questions that we included in goal 2 were respondents able to define implicit biases, respondents able to define explicit biases, and respondents able to define microaggressions. And you can see the percentages there. So we also asked the question about training and staff who believe training around diversity, unconscious bias, and inclusion are necessary to help support teaching and professional growth. So while we can see that only about 50% of the respondents could define the terms above, we were happy to see that 79.3, but almost 80% indicated that they do feel that professional development is important. And that's what we want to hear. And our goal is, of course, 100% in all areas. So that's what we set as the metrics. When it comes to the equity walks, empathy interviews, and fish bowls, we had students' participation in these, activities. We had 351 empathy interviews. We had 167 student fish bowls. We had equity walks at 6 schools in 18 classrooms. So again, we use this baseline data to set our goals for the new school year. We want to engage in 1,000 empathy interviews, 500 student fish bowls, and then equity walks at all of our schools. In an increase in classrooms, 72 classrooms. So this is really where you'll see a change in the LCAP is under goal 2. And then in goal 3, there are no changes. So our next steps prior to your approval of the LCAP at the end of June at our June 22nd meeting include that we received feedback from the county. So we actually had a very early submission of the LCAP. In the beginning of May, we had to submit it a little bit earlier than last year. And so we have those revisions. We've made those revisions in the copy that you see. We've sent it back to them and we have not heard back yet if it meets their criteria. So there might be some small, again, just small revisions before you see the final LCAP at the end of the month. And then at this time, I do really want to recognize the collective effort of all departments in contributing to the LCAP. I know that I stand before you every month with the updates, but really this is something that touches upon all departments. It's not just the educational side of the house, but it is also the fiscal side of the house, as well as you'll see in the LCAP where we address the foundational or basic needs and services that our students have that Assistant Superintendent mentioned about child nutrition, meals, transportation. So I really do want to recognize everyone that contributed to the plan that I bring before you this evening. Particularly, again, fiscal services has the whole side of the fiscal, all the numbers that you see in there are really Director Ryan and his team. And then I would also like to recognize one team member because she left. I thought she was here. Lisa Salaya. I know that she gave her DLAC presentation, but she contributes to all of the work that we do around our multilingual learners. And that goes into the LCAP, including the work with our DLAC and the educational partner input. And DLAC input into the LCAP is a requirement. And Coordinator Salaya is the person that has taken that on for several years. And I know she's retiring, so congratulations to her. At this point, any questions as well as conducting the public hearing?
Questions? I haven't opened up anything. You want to do that? Well, that's usually for blue cards, but. I'm going to open up the public hearing to I'm lost for word. Anyway.
Any comments on the
Yeah,
22-23
Thank you.
LCAP,
Okay.
Local Control Accountability Plan?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. We're gonna close that. And now, do you want? Okay.
Boy, oh boy, you said that real quick and it took me like an hour to read it this morning. It's just like, wait a minute, go back. I read it and it's like everything you just shared with us. It's really fresh in my mind. So I thank you for putting it in a nutshell for us because you know me, I'll go home and say this. But interesting that you said only changes in goal 2 because I saw that. And so and I shared with the superintendent my questions around that, but and he was very, very helpful. Thank you, superintendent. But I did want to share or ask or hope that staff complete the surveys. We had this discussion a couple of months ago about why aren't staff doing this? And I just can't get my head around that. And so this may be a conversation that you can have with HR and HR can talk to them and they can talk to HR. But I think that this is a component that is as an employee of the district would be mandated. Because without their input, we can't just assume we know what the answer to the question is. If we're only getting 25%, that's like a drop. That's just a suggestion. So
And,
thank you very
and
much.
if I might just say that what I would like to recognize is that we actually gave a lot of surveys this year.
Yeah, you did.
So we started some preliminary conversations actually this week about how we might, because there's a lot of surveys and a lot of great surveys and we want the information, but how we might try to incorporate the surveys and consolidate them so that there's one survey touching upon lots of different areas. Because I do think that there's some fatigue that can occur as we're sending out surveys.
Well, you just scroll on by and, but I hear what you're saying. If it's, job specific or, site specific, those are two different surveys. And, so, I encourage your team to look around, in ways that we can improve, that expectation. And, some instructional aides don't have time to even check email. So they're not even picking up the email. So there's just an idea that, we need to communicate somewhere. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, and thank you for your help with the wording. I'd like to recognize regarding the 2023-2024 proposed budget and a public hearing, Assistant Superintendent Regalada and Director Joel Ryan.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, executive team, staff, and community members. The proposed annual budget report is a snapshot in time of the district's revenue and expenditure projections for the 23-24 fiscal year, as well as a projection of the two following fiscal years. The information that we provide today does include the governor's May revision proposals. As you recall, if you recall, the practice in South Bay has been that we have in the past adopted the budget without the governor's May revision proposal. So we've always had to provide the 45-day update after this state adopted budget. So this time around, we've scheduled and moving forward, we scheduled 2 meetings in June, 2 board meetings in order to ensure that we provide the most up-to-date, accurate information on the adopted budget. Here again is our annual budget cycle. Since January, we have been working on 2 budgets, the current 22-23 budget, but also the 23-24 budget. And that begins as soon as the governor has his first proposal, shares his first proposal in January. As soon as he shares those proposals, we begin planning for the next year. Now, since then, as we all know, things change. Constantly changing around school districts, the economy, and the state. So then the governor comes out with his May revision with updated proposals, updated revisions to his January proposals. At the same time, we're again, current budget, but also working on next year's budget. So 2 budgets at once since January and moving forward. Oh, it's ready.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Espinosa. I'm Director of Fiscal Services, Joel Ryan. First, I would like to thank all the principals, admin secretaries, directors, HR, my entire team, and the executive team for their work preparing their budgets and ensuring an on-time and accurate budget tonight. I'm only up here because of their support and hard work. Believe it or not, work started in December between me and my budgeting team. Now, this is a big moment. After 30 hours of budget meetings, a couple dozen, maybe even 50 Excel spreadsheets, hours of review and double checking, I'm happy and excited to finally present the 23-24 school year budget to you tonight. So before we look at revenues and expenditures as a whole, our biggest revenue source is the state's local control funding formula. And you may have heard that we're getting an 8.22% COLA this year. It's important to note that, as you know, we have declining enrollment, and that factors into how much LCFF we get from the state. So as I said, the governor's proposed this 8.22% increase. But because of our declining enrollment, how we're funded, we're going to see a declining enrollment of about 281. So our actual funding increase here is here on the lower right. It's only 1.4%. So again, governor says we're getting 8%, but the reality is we have declining enrollment. So we're only getting 1.4%. Just an important measure to realize. So this is our budget revenues. This is a pretty common pie chart for our district. Most of our funding, like I said, comes from that LCFF or local control funding formula. And then we have a little bit of money from the federal government, other state grants besides local control funding formula, and then other local sources of revenue. So these are our general fund expenditures. This is both our unrestricted expenditures and our restricted expenditures. As you can see, the biggest, most dominant slice of the pie is salaries and benefits at almost 82%. Then we have our books and supplies at 7% and services at about 10%. And a very small slice for capital outlay, which we'll talk about later. Turning it over to just the unrestricted side, which is partially our local control funding formula, you can see that we really truly are a people-centered business, that 85% of what we spend our money on is salaries. So any changes to salaries have a big impact on this unrestricted funding that we receive. This is our one-time restricted funding. Then we try to bring this to you every budget cycle so you can kind of get a picture of the progress that we're making towards spending our one-time funds. You can see here at the bottom in the first column that we've received about $35 million of either pandemic-related funds or one-time funds from the state government. We have spent almost $25 million of that. So we've done a good job and made a lot of progress. We've still got 10 million left to spend, and we have plans for those dollars. As you know, we've spent some of that on social workers and will continue to, as well as learning acceleration tutors, nurses, health clerks, behavior techs, and substitute incentive pay. The bottom two grants are grants that were awarded to us this year. However, these two block grants have a lot of money left, and there's a good reason for that. Those are right now in flux in budget negotiations. The governor may take back some of those funds, so we're really proceeding cautiously before committing those funds to anything, but we're keeping an eye on the budget. We get updates every day from school services, so as soon as we know more, we'll have a stronger plan in place to spend those. This is our unrestricted budget overview. What I'd like to highlight here is that this was our second interim report that we presented to you, our beginning balance.
I respectfully ask the conversation in the back to go outside. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is not an easy concept to get, so I want to make sure you hear. So that first column is the second interim report that we presented to you, and it has where we started the year at the top, the ins, which are the revenues, the outs, which are the expenditures, and our contributions to things like special education, leaving us at second interim with about $34.9 million. Now with several initiatives at board direction, your leadership and support, we embarked on 3 major cost saving initiatives this year, which have improved our position. As you know, we did sell a bond and we were able to move some of those very expensive capital projects into bond dollars, saving our general fund. We've also had the supplemental employee retirement plan, which we will receive a lot of savings from that, and the irrevocable post-employment benefits trust, which will earn us future interest savings, or not interest savings, interest earnings, investment earnings. So in the middle column here, you see that our ending balance has grown by about $4 million, $4.2, $4.3 million. So looking ahead, we're required, the state of California requires us to look at this budget year plus 2 more fiscal years to ensure that we can meet our financial obligations. In order to do that, we have to come up with a set of assumptions that we use to estimate future year budgets. You can see here that 8.22% that I talked about earlier, but we also know that in 24-25, they're expecting 3.94%. And then 3.29% in 25-26. We've also included assumptions about LCFF funding. We've included our declining enrollment, which you can see year by year does have an impact of about 4 million to 3.5 million per year. Each year that we lose those students. We contribute a lot to our employees' retirement, so we've included the update to those rates for STRS for our certificated staff and PERS for our classified staff. And then other yearly increases we see in health and welfare benefits and our cost to contribute to our special education program. This is our enrollment chart, and you've seen this before, but we've updated it by 1 year. This is a 10-year span. As you can see in fiscal year 2016-17, we had about 5,500 students, and looking forward to school year 25-26, we're expecting 3,267 kids. That's a decline of 2,300 students over 10 years, or 41% of our enrollment. To quantify that, if we had those same number of students we had in 16-17, we'd be looking at almost $34 million more in revenue, which is a really big slice of pie, and it's a huge impact to our district. So this is a picture of our multi-year ending fund balance, and again, this is our unrestricted funding. This shows you that we can meet our financial obligations over the 3-year period that we're required to show that. We have a healthy ending fund balance in all 3 years. This balance allows us to absorb the impact of deficit spending, economic headwinds, which we're expecting, and declining enrollment. We are projected to meet our financial obligations over the 3-year period and maintain our state required reserves. And this is just to show you how we move from 1 year to the next. We do have some deficit spending here, so the ending balance goes down, and then again in the following year. So deficit spending has an impact, but we have a balance that can cover it.
As you heard, we do have a healthy ending balance, and that not only allows us to pay our bills and take care of our employees, but the committed components of the ending balance allow us to continue to provide programs and great educational experiences for our students. So we still need to provide things for kids, and the ending balance really allows us to do that. And to also commit initiatives that the board has stated that are important and critical to our district, such as the security improvements that we've talked about all year. Also, there is a desire to provide excellent educational opportunities for our kids without having to worry about that cost for our families. So we have also committed those funds under the field trips and the 6th grade camp commitment there. We have technology refresh coming up. We're in the early phases of the technology refresh that occurs every 4 to 5 years, and it's not a one-time event. Usually we spread that over a couple of years. As we do that, we have $2.5 million there. I'm sorry, I skipped these security improvements. As I stated before, starting in 23 and 24, we will begin to implement those recommendations and make improvements throughout the district around security. I had discussed the camera improvements, fire alarm systems, but also the communication systems. An example, what I mean by that is, again, this is just an example. There are concerns about if an employee were to be out in the field and saw a threat. How quickly can that employee communicate that threat or concern to possibly have a lockdown? Just again, an example. There are things available. There are products out there available to do a quick, whether it's a badge, panic button type thing that will alert the entire staff, lockdown, things like that. Again, just an example, but there are communication improvements that we can look at and make improvements throughout the district. Again, that is coming from staff staff input as well as a possible next step in security. Different from the fire alarms and the security cameras, the things that we usually talk about. There are other measures that we can take again in the modern technology world that we have right now. Decline in enrollment, you see the loss in revenue in just since 16-17, we would have over $30 million more in revenue. We still have the same number of kids. We always have to think about declining enrollment. And even if the projections are lower, so you see that we have a commitment of $5 million to plan for that. An example, this year we had we had 30 less students than we actually projected to have in declined from the previous year. So that can happen again. Although the projection is 281 students, it may be 320. It also may be 250, or it'd be great if it was 0, right? But we have to plan for, projection is just a projection. It can come in less. So that means less revenue than projected. So we have a commitment under declining enrollment. Facility projects, we have talked about the bond dollars being used and saving the general fund. We hope not to have to spend the $5.5 million there. We have it committed, but we cannot wait. If there are safety improvements to make now, we can't wait for a 2024 bond. We will use our Measure X dollars, but if we, again, safety and security are key. If we need to use some general fund dollars, we're not gonna just wait and hope. We have that set aside there as well. Instructional materials, I talked about the field trips and 6th grade camp and the 5% reserve for economic uncertainties. Again, that's just one component of the ending balance, and that's a little bit over $5 million. In order to continue to meet our financial obligations, we must continue to consider the following. I touched on the California economy. We rely on state economy. Should we rely on several things, not just the state economy? We also rely on Wall Street. And that's because 1%, should make sure I always get this one right. We count on taxes, personal income taxes, right? And 1% of Californians pay 50% into the returns, 50% of the total. I always get that off. That's to say 1% of Californians are the billionaires, the multi-hundred-million-dollar-naires. It's not even a word, but you know where I'm going with that. So they usually have their monies in Wall Street, in bonds and things like that. So if that's not doing well, that means tax receipts will come in a lot less for California. And that's what we're unsure of right now. Taxes have been postponed until October, so we have not received all of those tax dollars just yet. So the governor has a more positive outlook. There are currently two groups, one with the more positive outlook on the economy, which is Governor Newsom, but other groups are not as positive. So we have to kind of consider both those opinions and projections when we're making plans for future decisions. Declining enrollment, we've touched on. We are still pre-pandemic, and we're not at the pre-pandemic percentages around attendance. We're still around the high 90s to 91%. We're not near our 94% pre-pandemic, and that obviously affects revenue as well. Our healthy ending balance is allowing us to manage deficit spending, but again, we have to keep that at the forefront as well, and when we're making decisions. One-time restricted funding is ending next year, ESSER. Let me be more specific. We do have the two grants that Director Ryan mentioned, but we are not sure what those amounts would be because the governor has made proposals to cut those up to 50%. And we have future negotiations. We'll be negotiating with CSCA soon. And with that comes dollars and those when we make agreements. So we have to plan for those as well. Our next steps include adopting the 23-24 budget at our next meeting on June 22nd. If needed, we will provide a 45-day budget revision to the adopted budget. And we will also focus on closing the books for the 22-23 fiscal year as well. And with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Or maybe public hearing.
I'm going to open the public hearing on your proposed budget, 23-24 proposed budget. So for public comment.
There are no public comments.
Okay, thank you. I'll get that. Any questions, comments? Okay, yes. Could you put on your mic, please? Thanks.
Sorry. I especially appreciate the ending fund balance commitments and assignments so that when we look at the budget and we say, oh, we have this surplus of money, we know that this is the budget's a live document, and if it hasn't been spent yet, it's not on here, but we do have plans for everything. And thank you for sharing that with us and the community.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you so much for your work and your department is constantly looking for ways to save money and buy more with a lot less. So thank you for your work and your department's work. I was watching a board meeting somewhere, I don't know, on YouTube this morning, and just as we did with the other post-employment benefits, and we put it in a trust. Well, this district put their health and welfare benefits in a trust. And so I just throw that out there for you guys to think about, and sorry, Superintendent. But it came to me at 10 o'clock this morning. And so I just throw that out because we are saving a lot of money with the trust for the retirement benefits. So I just throw that out. In regards to the bond money, did I hear you say that we haven't spent any bond money yet?
To clarify, we had the issuance, if you recall, in
Right.
last fall, Measure X of approximately $11.4 million. We have not spent those dollars during the 22-23 year. We are planning to spend those. We were waiting for the facilities master plan needs assessment to identify our needs. And we will be using those bond dollars first as we make improvements starting next fiscal year.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Again, I keep waving this. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
We have Executive Director Melissa Griffith up to and asking for approval of the 23-24 successor contract negotiations for CSCA.
Thank you. Good evening, President Ellsworth, trustees. Tonight, as required by the Government Code Section 3547, the district and CSEA first presented their initial proposals at the board's May 4th board meeting to enable public to become more informed regarding our initial proposals. Tonight, we are here asking for your vote to move forward with the initial proposals provided by the district.
May I hear a motion to approve the district's initial proposals?
I motion to move the district's initial proposals.
Thank you. Second. Thank you very much. I'm going to call for the vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Seguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We have next item K from the consent calendar that was brought forward, which is the agreement with Sweetwater Union High School District regarding the
I move to approve the agreement with the Sweetwater Union High School District regarding swimming and water safety with a friendly amendment. The friendly amendment is to one, approve, and two, Madam President, I would like to have two on behalf of the board, thank you cards. One to the supervisor, swim supervisor. I don't know her name, but she was, okay, wait. We have a motion, then we talk, right? Sorry. So that's my friendly amendment to the motion. To approve with a friendly amendment for two thank you cards to the pool supervisor as well as Dr. Giddy in Sweetwater, Superintendent Giddy.
Okay, the original item that was pulled was to approve the agreement with Sweetwater Union High School District regarding swimming and water safety. And you would like to add to that the two thank you
friendly
notes?
amendment. I moved.
Okay,
So
I have a
do I
second.
motion to approve? Motion to.
I think she made the
Oh, then I
motion, so
second the
you
motion.
certainly can. Any questions
What?
regarding?
So we got a
this?
first, second. Oh, I'd like to explain a little bit. I
Can
think
we have a, do you want to do it before or after the vote?
before, please. This is something that our children have not realized in over 30 years. Our community, there's two zip codes on the other side of 14th. Hardly ever realized that we had even a pool before they redid the pool. And this opportunity here that we are going to vote upon is going to be open to all three zip codes. And which is really important because most kids don't get on the other side of 14th Street to know that we even have a pool facility, the Mar Vista Aquatic Center, and it's beautiful. It's through Superintendent, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I pushed and shoved on this for a while, and thank you for making it happen because it's a difficult road. When the pool opened up in December, the staff that the pool supervisor went to bat for are children that are in the swim program that qualify for a work permit. I just want the board to understand that there aren't just swim coaches out there hanging around, okay? They had to recruit them. They're on the swim team. They're on the water polo teams. Mar Vista has a vested interest in our 7th and 8th grade component. And through that work and establishing the staff to support our children, it was through that effort of that supervisor and the superintendent of Sweetwater and our superintendent who pushed for this. And this is just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. That's why I want to thank the swim coach and Superintendent Giddy because swim lessons have never been free. And I'm third generation deep now, and it's never been free. So please sign up, community, sign up. Okay. If you're not sure, go down and see the pool and you're just gonna love it. So with that, I'll close and hope that everyone supports this friendly amendment to approve.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve as amended the agreement with Sweetwater Union High School regarding the swimming and water safety and the two thank you notes. Call for the vote, please.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Seguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Consent calendar.
And I
Oh,
just
sorry.
really quickly, thank you. I just want to thank the board for approving the agreement. And I also want to recognize Dr. Aguirre, who's here, our Sweetwater Superintendent, who is very supportive and has been very supportive. And I want to recognize him and his staff for working diligently with our staff to make sure that we could have a swim program for our students. And I also want to recognize Mayor Aguirre. I don't think any relation, right? No, no relation. Mayor Aguirre, who was also instrumental in helping with that.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Amazing. Thank you.
Consent calendar, please.
We have one public comment on the consent calendar. And I just want to state before a public comment comes that I spent some time trying to explain how public comment works. And Ms. Danielle Ward Hines would like to make a comment on the consent item. Consent item R, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, which are warrant and check registers. And I did explain to her that when she makes a public comment on an item, it has to stick to that item. If not, our board would have to ask her to stop her public comment. At this point, Ms. Danielle Ward Hines, please.
This is my first day of being 12, and I definitely do not want to be here as my first day, but I came here to just pretty much just tell you people how I kind of feel a little bit, and then move on with my day pretty much. But since I am here and everything, I'll tell you. Yep.
We're just concerned about some of the things that are on the check register, purchase orders, things that are not actually adding up as far as the accounting that we're receiving on our side. For example, Mr. Ryan at 4/8 at the board meeting said on your ratified purchase orders that he gave me $2,100 as a blanket reimbursement for materials for my son. I have not received that money. So there's a question of why that was ratified or said that that was going through. I see this time around that there is someone on there that has been received her money appropriately, but there's been some other clerical errors here and there, and that's what they've been referred to as. I think that you guys should maybe take a peek at that and see if certain monies are not ending up where they're supposed to be. My son bravely came here today to express himself after 7 years of being in this district. I think we should applaud him. He has autism. This is the first day, like he said, of him being 12. He celebrated his birthday yesterday, and I think we should all applaud his strength, his courage for coming here because he just wants you to know he's part of this community. Way to go, Ryan. And we applaud you, and we're just here to basically help other people be able to read this information and to act appropriately and to know the agenda and know where they fit in the agenda, how they can share public comments or not, when they're allowed to share them, how it works. A lot of people in your community do not understand the process. And I think that's something as the board, maybe you can address and think about how to reach out to the community and help them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about the procedure. Should that have been pulled? Or this is the first time it's happened that I'm aware of, so.
No, if the public comment is on the consent calendar, then they can
It's like
comment
that.
on any of the. consent
Okay,
calendars.
perfect. Thank you. Okay, may I hear a motion for the rest of the consent calendar? I move to approve all items on the consent calendar as listed, including the superintendent's recommendation for denial or approval of leaves of absences. Would it be more accurate to say the minus item K?
I'll take care of it in the minutes.
Okay, thank you. First time, it's interesting. Thank you very much. And I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, future agenda items. At this time, each trustee may suggest one topic for a future board meeting. Do we have any? Okay. Let's go on to future agenda items follow-up.
All right, thank you, President
Richard.
Ellsworth. At this time, trustee Likert requested that we have an agenda item, or we add to the agenda just an explanation of the process, the placement process that happens every year for our special education students specifically. The board did receive some information in the Friday update. So at this time, it really is up to the board to have that discussion. And if there's consensus, then we will add that to a future agenda item.
I know that these are, we're here for the work of the board, for us to make our informed decisions, but I would love to see a small explanation for all of us again to hear, for the public to hear as well regarding movements and why we make the choices we do.
I think I agree with you, Kelly, because a lot of this came from the public. So having a little blurb to help them understand I think is a good idea.
That sounds good to me.
I would agree, but I would add a friendly amendment to that request, if I may, Kelly. In that we had the deep dive into our special ed component. And that is still simmering in the district work. And prioritizing what next steps are continuing, and we know that. The placement of children, and it's always been the practice of the district to inform parents and regardless of the status of the child, regardless if the child is not going to a homeschool. And so I just share that with you in that we've already done the work and the information was shared in our Friday update. I would support a quick one-page, perhaps in Pamela's comments in the future. I don't want to say next month because this is going to be a rough couple of months getting started, but to have that small piece added to our LCAP information or general information. So I would just say small, one-page FYI.
Okay. I think that's 4 definites.
Yes, that would be it. Thank you very much. So there was consensus from the board on doing a presentation during the board meeting. And so I will discuss it with President Ellsworth and figure out when to put it on a future agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, I think we are on communications from us. 3 minutes each, please.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to take this moment to thank all of you for the hard work that you've done this year. It is crazy to think that today was the last day of school. I'm very excited to sleep an extra hour tomorrow morning. And I hope that you all have a great break, and I'm excited for the work that we're all going to do together next year. Thank you. And thank you to my colleagues.
I just want to echo to what trustee Eugenio just said. Thank you for all your presentations, your hard work, and have a great summer.
Yes, thank you for all the hard work and just all the knowledge that we're receiving as a new board, like the continuing trainings, the working together meetings. We came together on a Saturday to learn more about our roles and responsibilities and how we can work as a team to have the most impact on our students, like putting our students first, and how we as a board can learn to do that. And so I appreciate all the opportunities that we have to learn together and work together so that we can put kids first and enjoy the summer with a clear focus on what's coming up next. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, trustees. It's been an exciting first 6 months for you. So it's been rip roaring for Janet and I for the last 2 years. So, with that, I think I've said a lot during the presentations. And again, thank you so much. The information is valuable. It's valuable for our community. It's valuable for our parents to hear it. And so when we talk about it at board meetings, colleagues, the recording of the Zoom is online forever. And so people can look back and see the work that the district brings forward for the board approval. And that's really important when speaking with the community. And so with that, I want to say congratulations to all the promoting classes. Congratulations to all those students that, and I truly believe every child achieved this year. And that the goal for our community, all 3 zip codes and every family unit, take a pledge in July to pledge to come to school every day. That's all we can ask of our community, is that we're ready, we're here, and the door is open, and for the family to make that commitment that school matters and every day matters. So if we as a board send that message, keep saying that message, the kids will come. And with the new programs, oh my gosh. So we're on a roll. Thank you. Thank you all, and have a great break in those 12-monthers. I'm sorry. Take vacation.
Of course, I agree with my teammates here. And I just want to ask Mr. Bevelak, are you sure there's not enough room in your program that I could sign up? Thank you. Really, this is amazing. The more kids come and the more programs that I know you're starting on Monday, right? So go for it. Have a good time with the kids, and see you in a few weeks, actually. Good night.